American exceptionalism is a belief that the United States is unique or exceptional. The concept of American exceptionalism has provided U.S. citizens with a representative form of self-recognition throughout history. American exceptionalism is defined through unique features. The philosophy is founded upon shared commitment to democratic principles of liberty, equality for all, and individualism. Some things that make the U.S. special or exceptional are the documents that shape and organize the structure of society. Also, specific people and events transform the application of American exceptionalism. As a democratic model for society, American laws and acts have often reflected society's values. The Freedom of Information Act, or the FOIA, is a federal law passed by Lyndon B. Johnson. While Johnson believed that government information should remain private, House of Representatives member John Moss pushed for the act to be passed. The act allowed for the transparency of government and implemented a philosophy of full government agency disclosure. This aligns with American values from the Gettysburg Address, that the government is for the people, by the people. As a democracy, the FOIA represents the importance of people having a voice in their government. Requesting unclassified government information has led to citizens being able to prevent or expose politicians from abusing their power. It keeps the power of the government in the citizens' hands. The Freedom of Information Act embodies American values of an open society and a government that serves the people. The increased transparency established a new relationship between the government and its people. This act serves as an example for other societies striving to achieve a more equal democracy. As access to information is indispensable to genuine democracy and good governance, the Freedom of Information Act was passed to enforce these rights. The universal significance is that the governments should be transparent in order to avoid any corruption and keep their people informed. The Charter sets up the structure and function of the United Nations so that it can be successful as an international peacekeeping organization, unlike the League of Nations. The United Nations was formed in 1945 in order to maintain peace and security. The Charter lays out the objective of the United Nations. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and for these ends to practice tolerance and live together in peace with one another as good neighbors. As seen in the text, the Charter works towards preventing war and also aspects of social development. The United Nations works towards women's economic and social empowerment, protection for refugees, labor rights, and vaccinations on a global scale. The goals of the United Nations align with American values of equality as stated in the Declaration of Independence, all people are created equal. America's involvement in a peacekeeping body represents American society, through which we are working towards liberty and justice for all. This document shows American willingness to cooperate and work with other countries for the benefit and safety of society. This charter holds universal significance because it established a way for nations to unite and cooperate to avoid conflict. When faced with challenging situations, establishing peaceful relations is the priority in order to protect our people. One important artifact embedded within the United States is the Marine Corps War Memorial, located in Washington, D.C. This memorial represents our nation's gratitude and appreciation to Marines and those who fought beside them. The statue itself depicts one of the most knowledgeable incidents of World War II. This picture behind the statue represents the American capture of Mount Suribachi on a tiny island just south of Tokyo. This island was invaded by the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions in 1945 and created a sense of American conquering soon after. The physical capture of this image came from Joe Rosenthal of the Associated Press and later won a Pulitzer Prize. This monument shows universal significance because it puts out the message to the world that we are a united nation that recognized our past and thanks the people who have fought for us and with us. It sets a standard for all other nations to have respect towards us and others that help fight with them. Around 20 years ago, there were still many questions regarding the exploration of space and the potential that certain planets had to sustain life. To answer some of these questions, the development of the Curiosity Mars rover began. The primary mission of this project was to determine if Mars is suitable for life and learn more about this planet's environment. In the past years, there have been significant discoveries made from this project, including the discovery of past water and geological change. One aspect of this rover that displays its importance is its size and ability to obtain information. Curiosity is about the size of a small SUV, standing at just under 10 feet long by 10 feet wide and about 7 feet high. The total weight of the rover is around 2,000 pounds. Engineers at NASA designed the rover to roll over obstacles up to 25 inches high and travel about 660 feet per day. The rover also contains cameras and spectrometers in order to capture and better characterize the surrounding environment. According to NASA, Curiosity has 4 main science goals. These goals include determining whether life ever arose on Mars, characterizing the geology of Mars, characterizing the climate of Mars, and preparing for human exploration. Looking into the future, we plan on further exploring this planet and establishing some sort of landmark. The Curiosity Mars rover represents universal significance because it shows how our research and science facilities gather information and data that is relevant to and can help the entire world. It also shows how we are actively seeking to improve life and possibly expand it to places that were once never thought possible. One person who really represents American exceptionalism is former President John F. Kennedy, who was also known as Jack. Before presidency, John F. Kennedy was in the U.S. Naval Reserve, fighting for American freedom. In one particular instance, he saved himself and his crew from defeat and death, and was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for heroism during World War II. Once elected as president, he majorly transformed the U.S. economy and took it out of recession through reforms. He also established the Peace Corps, which would help underdeveloped nations in many ways, such as education. He also avoided nuclear war with the Soviet Union through skillful negotiations and contributed to the formation of the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. He also developed the New Frontier program, which had plans for many reforms that would better all aspects of American life, and, while he was still alive, some of these reforms were put into action. He was also an advocate for racial integration and civil rights through his speeches. Overall, he improved the lives of many people globally, not just in America, which is why he has universal significance. He truly embodies what an American should be, through helping his nation and also expanding that help to other people around the world that are in need. He set a standard for how other leaders should act. Another person who is very important to American history and displays our exceptionalism is Alexander Graham Bell. He was Scottish-born, but immigrated to the United States where he was an inventor, scientist, and he even taught the deaf. He is most known for his invention of the telephone in 1876 and the founding of the American Telephone and Telegraph Company in 1885. This invention has developed into the smartphones that we carry in our pockets today. Alexander Graham Bell represents the American dream and how immigrants from anywhere can come to this country and start their life and find great success. His invention also set a standard for further technological developments that would completely alter lives globally. He represents American exceptionalism because he shows how people with the American dream can change the lives of Americans and then transfer to a global scale. His invention and developments affected the entire world, and he was a catalyst for technological communication innovations. In 1872, Yellowstone National Park was officially named a public park in order to preserve, care, and manage the resources and nature in the land. The Yellowstone Act of 1872 stated that the land, thence east to the place of beginning, is hereby reserved and withdrawn from settlement, occupancy, or sale under the laws of the United States, and dedicated and set apart as a public park or pleasuring ground, or the benefit and enjoyment of the people. This act paved way to the creation and expansion of the National Park Service, which maintains parks all over the United States. The creation of Yellowstone is incredibly important as it shows Americans' values for natural resources and preserving the unharmed land of our country. We chose this event because it set a precedent for American values and shows how we do our best to preserve resources and understand the value of our planet. This shows universal significance because in order to expand our communications with other life forms, we have to first take care of our planet. We have to protect our land before we add more. On May 17, 1954, the ruling of Plessy v. Ferguson that public schools should be separate but equal was reversed as a result of the court case Brown v. Board of Education. Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren ruled that segregation of public schools was a violation of the 14th Amendment, which granted citizenship to all people of all races. Another important aspect was that it granted equal protection of the law, which directly proves that Plessy v. Ferguson's ruling was unconstitutional. In the ruling, Supreme Court Justice Warren stated that the direct court is to take such proceedings and enter such orders and decrees consistent with the opinions of this court as are necessary and proper to admit to public schools on a racially non-discriminatory basis with all deliberate speed. This shows universal significance because it shows how Americans, especially minorities and women, called for change and equality over time, and how individual rights have evolved over time. It's universal because equality should be implemented in every society. We chose this specific court case because it highlights the extent of the limitations minorities, specifically African Americans, experience on a daily basis and the barriers they had to overcome to gain equality. Americans have paved the way for other countries and displayed our exceptionalism in the past, present, and future. These artifacts, documents, people, and events especially display the values we Americans have and how we show universal exceptionalism. We hope to extend our help and our ideals to new people, including those from other planets, in the future.